Yandere Simulator's lore is full of mysteries soon to be revealed once the game is done. Things like, what will Kencho's role be on Megami's Week? Who is Kyoko's sibling? And I really hate making introductions. First of all, even though this is kinda obvious, it's fair to remember that this theory is full of canon spoilers, so if you haven't finished the story in 1980s mode, you might want to avoid this video. I've had a theory about how Yandere Simulator might end for a couple months now, but never got a chance to put my ideas in order. So let's get to it, shall we? Let's start with a couple of facts to set the foundation of this theory. Headmaster's tapes. During Headmaster's Tape 2, in 1988, Kocho finds out that Saikou had an argument with his daughter, Ichiko, because she wanted to travel the world to find her sister. Thinking about this quote-unquote sister gives him headaches.
Earlier that day, Mr. Saikou had a furious argument with his daughter, who graduated recently. Apparently, she doesn't want to inherit the company, and she's decided to leave Japan to travel the world. The strangest part is the exact reason why Mr. Saikou's daughter wants to travel the world. One phrase the secretary kept hearing was, "my sister." The weirdest thing of all is that when I imagine Mr. Saikou with another daughter, I have a mental image of what she would look like, but I get a headache if I picture her in my mind for too long. Man, really creeps me out.
During Headmaster's Tape 6, in 1999, Kocho claims to have seen Ryoba entering Saikou's office and disappearing on thin air. He tried to get answers from Saikou's secretary but got nothing.
She walked straight through the waiting room and directly into Mr. Saikou's office, without even speaking a single word to the secretary. At first, I was speechless. Then I jumped out of my seat and asked the secretary to identify that woman. The secretary was silent for a few moments and then gave me some generic platitude about how the details of Mr. Saikou's appointments must be kept strictly confidential. I was baffled. That woman was still in the office, wasn't she? Why would the secretary send me in there? I took a deep breath and opened the door to his office, expecting to see her standing there, but she wasn't. The only people in that room were Mr. Saikou and his son.
Saikou Family Tree. Since some people seem to confuse Saikou with Ichiro, Ichiro with Kencho, and Ichiko with Megami, I'll explain the family tree to dispel doubts. Saikou Saikou, former CEO of Saikou Corp, married a woman whose name remains unknown for now. They had 3 childs, or at least, for the sake of avoiding confusion, I'll say there were 3. Later, I'll explain why. These 3 childs were the youngest boy, Ichiro Saikou, and the older twins, Ichiko Saikou and Fungirl, whose real name remains unknown. Lastly, Ichiro, latter CEO of Saikou Corp, married a woman whose name remains unknown and had 2 childs, the older sister, Megami Saikou, and the younger brother, Kencho Saikou. 1980s ending. If you manage to get the S+ rank at the end of 1980s mode, you'll be rewarded with an extra scene where Hakichi is kidnapped by Saikou Saikou, asking for something in exchange. Thanks to the basement tapes, we know that Hakichi is safe and sound. Kinda. Next to Ryoba in the present time. So she got him back, therefore gave Saikou the thing he wanted from her. We also get to see a timeline which, between other stuffs, shows us exact years Saikou Corp's inventions were published. We'll talk about that later. Fungirl apparitions. During her February 8, 2018 apparition, Fungirl tells us the story of how her father got rid of her because she was a threat to him. Quote, "I have a place in this world. Well, I was supposed to. My universe is identical to this one, with one difference. In this universe, my father invented many things. In my universe, my father had just one more invention. The investors wanted him to prove that it was safe. To demonstrate his confidence, he put his own daughter inside. Being shattered across time and space was not the worst part. The worst part was being forgotten. In this universe, my father only had one daughter. She'll never know she had a sister." End of quote. This confirming not only that there are only 2 universes, but also that she never existed in ours. She adds more during her April 26, 2018 apparition. Quote,
I knew he was planning to get rid of me, but I didn't think he would do it in front of an audience. I thought I was safe, as long as other people were around. He probably wanted the satisfaction of seeing his biggest obstacle willingly eliminate herself right in front of him. He was sick in that way, in more ways than you know. A machine that erases its contents from existence, wipes all evidence from history. Sure will be handy for a psycho Yandere girl trying to eliminate her rivals, huh?
End of quote. This last sentence is important. Then she adds, quote,
In this timeline, the rules of physics are a bit different. That machine can never be recreated, and no machine can be invented that can undo its effects. Not very fun.
End of quote. During her April 2nd, 2018 operation, she tells us in a teasing way that Saikou never invented anything aside from the machine. Quote,
Inventor! Ha! Don't make me laugh. He never invented a single thing, aside from ways to make his daughters hate their lives. I knew everything, and he knew I knew everything.
End of quote. Lastly, during her December 1st, 2018 operation, she confirms that she is directly talking to Ayano, rather than only breaking the fourth wall. Quote,
He loved Japan the same way you love your senpai, and, just like you, he was willing to do anything for the one he loved.
End of quote. And every single time she kept repeating that, sometimes she lies. With all that said, let's dive into the theory. I think that I know what Fungirl was lying about and, therefore, how the game's ending is going to go. What if Fungirl was lying when she said,
In this timeline, the rules of physics are a bit different. That machine can never be recreated.
Maybe the machine can be recreated. Not only that, the machine is being recreated. I think that Saikou find a way to create that machine, and we actually get to see some clues that point that he is testing it. In 1989, Saikou kidnapped Hokichi not because he wanted something material from Ryoba. He wanted a deal. He wanted Ryoba to test the machine in exchange for her senpai. 10 years later, in 1999, the testing will result as expected. Thus, she disappeared in Saikou's office, something that was noticed by Kocho, the headmaster. Does it mean that Ryoba was obliterated as Fungirl? Contrariwise, Ryoba is perfectly fine. The machine did exactly what it's supposed to do. Okay then, what did the machine do? My theory is that the machine is a time machine. Do you know what a causal loop is? Imagine that someone gives you a book and tells you to publish it as if it was yours. Later in the future, you find a time machine and decide to go back in time to where you were younger and give yourself the book and publish it. Then, you realize that the man who gave you the book to start with was your future self. So, who wrote the book in the first place? It doesn't matter. The important thing is that that book is now stuck in an endless loop. Fine, but why am I telling you this? Because this is exactly what Saikou did. When Fungirl says that he never invented anything, aside from the machine that shattered her, she means that someone else invented them and, somehow, he was the one who took the credit. Something that caught my attention was the fact that every single one of Saikou's invention is listed in the timeline. And if you search, the dates match with real-life ones. The only thing that does not match is that all of these inventions were created by different companies, unlike Saikou's. Okay, so a tiny editor's note here. Even though the first transistor radio was created by Texas Instruments, technically it was released by Sony. Then I remembered that in the game there is the Saikou station, which is an obvious parody to the PlayStation. Saikou is Sony. My theory is still there. Saikou stole everything from Sony, not from different companies, but yeah, I can't believe I did not realize that before. Let's pretend this did not happen. Do you understand what I mean by all of this? I think that Saikou created a time machine and used it to steal all of those inventions and give them to his younger self, triggering a causal loop, where those inventions are forced to go back and forth so Saikou can use them to found his mega corporation. At some point, Fungirl discovered this and thus turned into a threat to her father, who decided to eliminate her by sabotaging his own machine. There was no mistake. We know the rest of the story. Everyone forgot about the existence of Fungirl in her universe. In our universe, some people remember her. Ichigo can hear her in her mind and wants to find a way to bring her back. Kocho remembers how she looked like, but he has headaches when he does so. Maybe more people who met her have this issue.
Oh yeah, Fungirl, right. So, to answer your question... What were we talking about? Oh god, I have the worst headache right now. I think I'll just have to answer questions some other time. Sorry.
This is referred as the Ichigo syndrome in her character page. And how will Yandere Simulator end? Pay attention at the way Fungirl talks about the machine with Ayano. It's like she wants to lure her into taking possession of the machine. Fungirl wants to use Ayano to bring her back and, maybe, have her revenge. When I first wrote this theory, I thought about how strange was the fact that the first Aishi's date of birth is known, and the fact that Ayano is the 10th Aishi. The number 10 seems to be an important number related to closed cycles in the game. 10 rivals, 10 wigs, 10 Aishis. Which made me think that Ayano was meant to be the last Aishi, that the only possible happy ending was an ending where there were no more Aishis, or maybe a war without Aishis to begin with. But I have no enough evidence to say none of this, so I'll save it for another video. With all that said, what do you think about this theory? Do you think this is how the game is gonna end? Do you think I missed some fact and therefore my theory is flawed? I wanna know your opinions on it and maybe have a discussion about it. Thank you for wasting your time hearing me overanalyzing the ambiguous text. And please share this with people you think will have something to say about it. See you around! Come on, you can do it. First of all, even though this is kind of obvious, kinda. During Headmaster's Tape 6 in 1999, during her February full the soup and the burr. A machine that erases its content. Welcome to content! Since some people seem to this is a fucking tongue twister. I need to rest.